listening to the Power of Inspiration and Awakening Radio with Julia Griffin. To master a higher frequency for a new state of mind. Once you walked in a forest of splendor in which everything you did and everything you thought was aligned. It is possible at this time to begin to return to the old knowledge. Intuitive healer and manifestor Julia Griffin is here to talk about this unique time in history when all sentient beings, animals, plants, trees, and the earth are intent on creating this change. The wolves awakened her to the most incredible light, which opened gifts and brought knowledge that she longs to share. You are creators, and you were born to be creators of beauty, possibility, and joy. Join Julia on a journey into a beautiful and magical world where amazing possibilities exist. Let us help open the door. The Power of Inspiration and Awakening with Julia Griffin starts right now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julia Griffin, and you're listening to The Power of Inspiration and Awakening on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us for the next hour and let us help you experience a higher vibration and a new state of mind. We have a wonderful guest today, Kathryn Hudson. Welcome, Kathryn.
Thanks so much for having me, Julia.
And I also want to thank our mutual student, Anne, who put us together. So let me tell you about Kathryn. She's an international speaker, teacher, and lover of all things spiritual, which is how she puts it, all things. After an angel walked into the bank in the middle of Manhattan, that must have been exciting, to give her an amethyst and a message, Kathryn found her path opening up to eventually lead her to France and the life she leads today. Following up on over 20 years in international finance on Wall Street and around the world, Kathryn is delighted to be free to listen to her heart's guidance, to play with the angels, and to teach others how to do the same. She's the author of 3 beautiful books. The first one, Inviting Angels into Your Life, I've just read and I love, so go buy a copy. We'll talk about that today. Discover Your Soul Mission, Discover Your Crystal Family. So today we're going to talk about angels and more. And if you're looking for Kathryn right now, she's at Kathryn, Kathryn, Hudson.fr. So why don't you tell us how the angels came into your life? I think everybody likes positive drama. So can you tell us a little more about the story?
Well, basically you had it in a nutshell. But at the time, and it's more than 20 years ago, I was working in Manhattan. I had been on Wall Street for a time. I actually became a banker with the vision of eventually making it to France. So this was what I would call a soul seed, but it wasn't happening. And I was really, well, you can imagine, I am flourishing now, so maybe not flourishing in the atmosphere of a bank, and definitely felt like I was out of sync with the people around me, et cetera. So, well, I'm Irish, and as Irish people can own up to, we grew up with a certain amount of lubrication. That is to say, there was a lot of alcohol around me as I was growing up. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was doing a fair amount of self-anesthetizing. And so one day I'm in the bank, hungover, trying to avoid all clients. And then at about 10:30 that morning, somebody walked into the bank, and she did not. At the time, there were tellers along a wall, so I'm dating myself. She did not go to the tellers. Rather, she was heading towards the officers, myself and 2 very alert and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed nice people that were saying, "May I help you?" I got up from my desk, turned my back on the person, bent over, opened up the lowest drawer possible. Basically, I gave her my butt to look at and pretended to look for a file. I was really trying not to work that day. Oh, Lord, I have such sympathy for the person that I was when I think back on it. But it didn't work. The person did not accept to go to the other officers who were available and smiling and nice, but instead came directly to me. You know when somebody's looking at your back, you can feel it, or at least sometimes we can. So I knew what was going on and decided to make a little noise to try to scare her away, kind of like scaring off predators in the wild. So I was using some language, colorful language. shoot, darn it, except not with those words, like as if this was really an important document that I was looking for, hoping she would leave. Well, she didn't. She sat down at my desk. She sat down. And where I come from, the Bronx in New York, well, when somebody stands up for themselves like that, you got to respect it. So I, heavy sigh, got up, turned, extended my hand, and with a very fake smile said, "Welcome to the bank. I'm Kathryn Hudson. How may I help you?" And that's when everything changed. She did not take my hand. She said, "I'm here to help you." And she placed a crystal, an amethyst crystal, into my hand, saying, "This will help you with your addictions." Well, for the first time in my life, I had what they call here in France a viper's tongue. I was pretty small, and in the Bronx you have to defend yourself, so I was pretty quick with the retorts. That day, for the first time, I think I had nothing. My brain was trying to figure it all out. What's going on here? What's going on here? And finally, I thought I understood, and I lifted my head, thinking that she was trying to sell it to me. And I was going to say, "Ma'am, we're serious. This is a bank. This is a place of it." She was already at the door. So somebody that I never saw before and never saw after, unfortunately, I was hoping when the books came out, she might find me again. Never saw before, never saw after, came and in the middle of Manhattan, gave me a message that I really needed to hear. So given that a crystal was involved, you can understand how my path has involved crystals also. But one asks me, I get asked pretty often, "Kat, do you think that that was an angel?" And for me, the answer is yes. An expression of the source that can help us with grace, that brings grace into life. But whether it was one of my guardian angels that were just so tired of trying to save me from the sticky situations I was getting myself into, that I was keeping them really very busy, or it was somebody who had such a clear channel that she was sent, and once she performed the action, she delivered the message she left. So either it was an angel in human form just for that moment, which I think is the case because I can't remember her face, but I remember everything else.
I think they appear when there's a turning point for people. I know years ago I read something about a huge airplane wreck in Atlanta, and almost every single person who lived described the woman that was an angel to other people. Some people she was an angel, some people she was a person, but they all described her exactly the same, and no one could find her when help came.
And this is it. There's an intervention that occurs that brings grace into a life, and one is marked forever. So that was a turning point for me. The ship, it was a cruise ship going in the wrong direction, so it took a while to right itself, but it did start that day. And frankly, that day I was like, what? I was afraid of the stone. I was putting the crystal in the drawer and then taking it back out. Like, what the heck? Things shifted though, really from, I can point to that day as a turning point. And I think I knew that a turning point was going to come. There's an inner knowing. We know when we're not in our place. We know when we're not where we're supposed to be. And in fact, it is that knowing that can help us to understand that means that there is a place that we are supposed to be. And I talk about that in the later book, Soul Mission. But really that day, I knew I was, twiddling my thumbs in the finance industry and playing a role that wasn't truly myself. So thank you to you.
That's the wonderful thing about the unseen world. Yes. I think that they know those seconds when we're ready to shift. And a lot of times it can feel like a lot of boring time passes when you're in between point A and C, when you're stuck in B. But they do come if you really want in your soul for that change. Now, I know you studied with Doreen Virtue, but something that was interesting to me about her book is that you sort of picked up where she left off with all your descriptions of the archangels and angels and energy centers and how to connect specifically for different traits with the angels. I was really struck by that because I had the earlier book and I would always think she didn't finish telling me about this, but I guess you did.
Oh, wow. I never really thought of it like that, but I see why you would say it. The path once I opened up to the angels, the path has been so rich, and I've been so guided, and sometimes taken along by the nose, and other times just struck by inspiration, but and questions from my students. And so there's always the next gap that's filled, the next understanding that's possible. And we are human beings. I certainly am. And it's nice to have an understanding that our head can relax into. I was a banker for 22 years. I'm not able to, I didn't just go flitting off into angel land. There was a
Right.
lot of grounding that was necessary. And if, if I hadn't had all of those experiences where tangibly this stuff works, and then
Mhm.
the understandings that underpin it, that give me the confidence that I would actually share with others. And so, but what a blessing to be able to do that in English and in French, which is so much fun.
Yes,
In
that is so much fun. I will say, and I'm just going to use a small example so people know. Now, some of the archangels that I had worked with in the past on my own, and I'm just going to list Chamuel for an example. All the things that you listed, I had already picked up on. So those are formats and energies and things that you can pick up on your own, but sometimes it's quite a bit faster if you can read about it and use things that are written down.
I just love that, because it's absolutely information that's accessible to everyone. But why not pick it up from what's already been gathered, and then take that frontier even further? It's absolutely
Well,
my
I think
passion.
I think particularly in this time, for people who are